want to thank everyone for coming today. I know that we don't have a huge turnout, but I'm glad those of you that could make it. I know it was short notice, but I thought it was really important to get this information out to our places of worship because so many people congregate there. And as just talking to our fire chief, Chief Schofield, he pointed out that that's one of the worry areas that in schools of where this could get communicated and spread. So it's important to have you here. So thank you for coming. Flip it. So the coronavirus. The reason we're doing this is because I want to get the facts out to you. I think it's real important that you have the facts. In late December, coronavirus emerged in China. You guys are all aware of that. There were unprecedented efforts to try and quarantine it within that province, but that failed to work. So in January, it started to emerge in other countries. And then locally, we've had 4 cases. I think we just had a 5th case today. So we've had 5 cases. So next one. Last week, in particular, the CDC expressed a little bit more concern because it's now in 60 countries, every continent but Antarctica. There were recent developments in the U.S. Starting last weekend. We had our first death in the U.S. We're now to 10. First healthcare worker was infected. You had your first infection in a long-term care facility, which is actually where a lot of the deaths came from. And then the first community spread as well. And those all happened on the West Coast, by the way. We had our suburban Cook County resident and his wife were cases 3 and 4. Good, okay. And there are really 2 major things that the healthcare industry and CDC and everybody, what they worry about with this, and it's severity of the disease and how fast it spreads. So there's really good news on both fronts. 80% of the cases are mild and no hospitalization. In fact, most of those cases we probably won't even know existed because they won't know. It's very much like the common cold. And coronavirus actually is, a form of the coronavirus is the common cold as well. So this is, it's just a different strain, much like the flu. Children are much less likely to be infected. I think from what we've heard, the youngest age is 15 worldwide that's been infected by this. So that's good because that's the schools. So it's not going to spread like crazy through the schools. But it's just like the flu, it's older and people with compromised immune systems that we worry about in these cases. They're likely to have more severe infections and potentially more complications due to this. The mortality rate has been about 1 to 2% so far. They believe that it's going to end up at 1% or below. They believe it's so. To put it in perspective, that's 1 in 100. SARS was 1 in 10. SARS is also a coronavirus. That's 1 in 10. MERS was 1 in 3. But those were Southwest Asia and Middle East. It didn't really spread outside of that. And then the flu is about 1 in 500. So it's a little bit higher mortality rate than the flu. But from a spread perspective, measles spreads, 1 person will infect 15 to 20. Whereas this, they expect, right now it's 2 to 3. They expect it'll settle out about like the flu, which is about 1.5. 1 person infects 1.5. So you'll see some of these numbers like on CNN where they say, oh, you're going to have a 1% mortality. That's 3 million deaths. Now that's 1% of the people who catch it. So, 1 out of 300 or 400 are going to catch it, potentially, and that's if it keeps spreading, and then there's a mortality rate from that. So it's not it's not the doom and gloom that you're seeing on some of the TV channels and that kind of thing, seeing on Facebook, and that's one of the reasons for getting the facts out to you. Go ahead and flip to the next one. There are 4 things that they worry about. They worry about slowing the spread, minimizing mortality. Obviously, the quarantines and all that are trying to slow the spread. Minimizing the mortality, it's again getting care for people, and they're learning constantly how to care for this more effectively. They're trying to develop meds for this in Israel. They're trying to develop a vaccine for this. But then it's also preserving the healthcare system and limiting the impact of the economy, because the last thing we need is the healthcare system overrun by things that aren't important. And that's one of the reasons the healthcare workers, the Palos Hospital said yesterday, we're more worried about the flu. So tell your folks that if they haven't got the flu shot, they can still go get it. Okay, especially elderly, they really need to have the flu shot. If they haven't had the flu yet this year and they haven't had a flu shot, they should go get one. and also limiting the impact on the economy. And as you're seeing all this panic where people are buying everything from, Sam's and Costco and all of that, it has an impact on the economy, and we're trying to avoid that because that just disrupts the flow of everything else that we do. So it's important to just remain calm about this disease. Can you play? So here we have a video. Hopefully it'll play through the audio system and you'll be able to hear it.
So we need to get the facts straight. How does this virus work? How does it transmit? Where does it want to go? And let's protect ourselves. I'm Dr. Orland. I'm a family physician in Toronto, Canada. The coronavirus is the family of viruses that can cause as mild things as just a common cold, all the way up to SARS or MERS. These are these bad pneumonias that we're talking about. And basically what these viruses are, they look like a tennis ball with all these spikes sticking out of it. And depending on the type of spike, it allows that virus to attach to certain places. So some viruses, they have the spike that attaches to your nose. So basically you just get a common cold. And the SARS virus and this new virus that we're talking about has this spike that allows it to attach to the cells in your lung. And when it attaches there, it puts in information to make photocopies of itself. So it uses our equipment to make more viruses.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of novel coronavirus.
Most of the coronaviruses live in animals. In this particular case, it was from Wuhan. There was a fish market where they were selling live animals. And the thought is that the virus was in a live animal, then it crossed into a human. But then what we found was that people were getting sick in terms of healthcare workers, in terms of family members that were looking after them, which now meant that the virus can pass from a human to another human. Just like all viruses, it needs to reach a target, which is your lung, and it has to get there with your help. It has no feet or no wings, so therefore it needs us to move it there. So that's why we keep saying, don't hang around sneezy people because you're going to breathe it in, and don't touch your face because that's how the virus is going to get in. The masks are helpful, but they're not necessary because they're leaky. The ones that you and I buy basically have pockets here, so therefore the virus can get in. What the masks really do is they stop us from touching our face. If you're sick, we tend to mask you, so therefore you're not spewing out the viruses to other people sitting around you. The true people that have the real masks are the N95. Those are sealed. These are for the doctors that may be caring for the patients. So in the beginning, the coronavirus will cause kind of like flu-like symptoms or a cold. So people just get a stuffy nose, that kind of thing. But you'll understand that as soon as that virus starts manufacturing in your lung cells, they're producing all these copies of the virus, all of a sudden now you kill the lung cells. So now you can't exchange oxygen. And that's why one of the early symptoms is people get very short of breath and they tend to have a difficult time breathing, and that's why they end up in hospital. So currently, unfortunately, we don't have a direct treatment for the coronavirus, so we don't have a medication that can kill it off. And so it's really supportive. So in other words, the patient can't breathe, we give them oxygen, help them to breathe. They can't drink, so therefore we give them fluids to support them. Their kidneys begin to shut down, we help them with all those things. So it's a very supportive process. This is a new virus that we've never seen before. So our immune system, our army, are having a hard time figuring out what to do. So usually what we have to do is we make something called antibodies. So these are things that can grab onto the spikes that we see on the virus, and it'll get rid of the virus for you, and that will actually bring you back to good health. So therefore the elderly may have a worse outcome. And of course the young children, the babies, their immune system is not so good either, so they may not make those antibodies as well. So just remember, your hands may be with virus. Virus cannot hurt you because it can't get through the skin. But the moment I do this, now I've brought the virus right to where it wants to go. So let's remember not to touch our hands to our face. So let's say you think that you might have been on a plane or you might have bumped into somebody that has it. What should you do? So the first thing is to contact a healthcare worker to tell them that potentially you have it. If you're feeling symptoms and you're going to go into a facility, call ahead. Okay, so whether you're calling the paramedics or whether you're calling the hospital or your doctor, just mention that you were on a flight. If you don't have any symptoms, then what we do is a little bit of a self-quarantine. In other words, we can just keep you away from other people, and so you don't go into parties, don't go with your friends, don't go into public transportation. So we can contain it very easily by making sure that you do a self-confinement, so to speak, for the, let's say, 7 to 14 days is the longest incubation time. So after that, if you're feeling well, then you don't have anything to worry about. So we get the facts right, and we don't have to be overly worried, but we do the right things so that we don't get the virus ourselves and that we don't pass it on to others. And if we look after each other in this way, this virus will have nowhere to go. It needs us to move it, it needs us to make copies for it, and if we don't help it, then the virus will stop. So we have the power to do that right now.
So what's the important messaging here that we need to get out to people? What do they need to know? So one is stay calm. Okay, this is, yes, it's serious. Obviously, we're here talking about it, so it's serious. But it's, you know, it's basically a strong strain of the flu if you think about as far as its potential impact. We're prepared. As you see, we're coordinating with the fire district. We're talking, this all started with a conversation I had Sunday night with the city of Chicago, who was on ground zero as soon as this happened. There were 7 cities with the international flights to China that were involved in it. They've passed the information on to us. The CDC is very involved, so we're prepared. The other thing is we're coordinating. We're coordinating with all of these different organizations. We're getting the word out to you. We got the word out to the school districts the other day, so we are coordinating those efforts. The other thing is we're trying to be very transparent on what's going on. We're trying to inform you of the facts so that you know what's happening. Combat the misinformation that's out there via Facebook. Let's face it, the news channels, if it bleeds, it leads. So they're going to have it on, you know, all the time, and they're talking about it constantly. And you know, some of those reports are factual, and some of them are more hyped. So, and we're trying to make sure you have the facts, because if you have the facts, you realize that it's not nearly as scary as what it's being portrayed to be. Go ahead. So what's the message? The risk is very low. Okay, go about your daily lives. Okay, but take precautions like you should be taking with the flu that most of us don't, which is make sure you're washing your hands all the time. I think we do that, but don't touch your face. If you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. If you're sick, don't push through it and go to work. Stay home. If your kids are sick, stay home. If you have the flu, or if you have flu-like symptoms, go to the doctor right away. Because Tamiflu, which can treat the flu, only works in the first 48 hours, right? So if you wait 48 hours, like I would tend to do, say, oh, this will pass. By the time it doesn't pass, now you're stuck with it and you have nothing that can treat you. So it's particularly important for, you know, for those of you who are elderly, or if you have elderly in your congregation, that they seek treatment right away. So if they're sick, they should definitely not just stay home from work, but they should go see the doctor right away. Because the flu is actually as much or bigger concern for them than this is. So that's the same precautions you should be taking during flu season, the same precautions you should take now. And as the healthcare workers or healthcare system has said to me numerous times, if you haven't had your flu shot, go get it. Because what you don't want is have the flu and then this on top of it, because that's going to make it really difficult for someone who's you know, elderly or otherwise sick to survive it. There's information here. We have our website's updated regularly. Also, Chicago's website's updated regularly. You can call us as well if you have any questions, but those are places where you can get information. So, I think that's it. So again, those are the contact information. Anybody have any questions for me? I am going to turn it over to the fire department. Any questions?
Some of our most faithful members are the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a, you know.
That's why I brought you all in.
That, you know, they come no matter what. So we need to take care to say, if you're sick, hey, we give you an indulgence to stay home.
Stay home. If you're sick, do not come to worship.
We need to you, we can get
Right.
something to you to compensate.
Right.
We're trying to do that at Christ Lutheran
Right.
to help them make that decision. We'll
Yes.
get something to you to help.
And if you're doing communion and those things, take precautions so that you're not sharing things. Or I know one place said, we're just not doing it. We're not going to do communion right now because we don't want to communicate. We don't want this to go from one person to the next. So those are some options that you have. You know, make sure you've got hand sanitizer out for people when they get there, so that you know, again, hand sanitizer helps. Washing your hands is better, but hand sanitizer helps. So all of those precautions are good, but I think that's a very good point, is if you're sick, I know you're very faithful, but please stay home if you're sick. Anything else? Well, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Sinkapalmi, who's going to pass on some information from the fire district. What you do for the video? Okay. Yeah, because this is going to be on video. You're going to be on TV.
You might want to hook me up then.
Let's see which way. Will
that work?
That'll work.
Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me? I'm going to hold this because I don't know what to do with it. So I'm just going to try to dial this down a little bit for us, how that relates to us in Orland and our fire district, because everybody here are residents of Orland or the general area. So our guidelines within the fire district or in the healthcare system is we listen to whatever the CDC's daily updates are and feeding us information-wise and transmit that down to our personnel. So what does that look like for our folks here in Orland Fire? You know, if you look at our district and our community, where we have about 100,000 people that are in and out here on a daily basis, and we value that, and we take that all very seriously about what that looks like, about people coming and going in our community plus our residents. So again, I'll echo what the mayor said, is that, button up. Again, wash your hands and cover your sneezes and take great precautions like that. But I want you to understand when you are ill and you activate our system locally, the second you pick up 911, our dispatchers are already asking, where have you been? Have you been out of the country? We want to know these things. Were you on any recent flights? Were you on any cruises? We're going to ask you that all the while our medics are already out the door and responding to your home for whatever that type of emergency is. But we're just taking those extra steps because we want to make sure that our healthcare providers are getting as much information as possible. And if we even suspect for a second that we have that type of exposure, we're donning our gowns, we have our N95 masks, we have enough inventory to handle an initial crisis. And if we think you are truly ill, we're going to cover you and cover us. Okay, but one thing we cannot control is the healthcare system as far as the hospital. So we monitor them daily. We have daily information on what hospitals can coordinate and handle what. And they go on what's called a bypass system and things like that. I won't get too much into it, but all the hospitals talk to each other. And when we have these flu outbreaks, we have these type of spikes where we could take you to the hospital, but where are you going to go? You have the flu. They're going to assess you and say stay home. So again, try to isolate yourself if you don't feel good, but definitely get your medical care. Okay, you can feel rest assured there are plenty. We have 28 to 30 firefighter medics in our community with 6 transporting ambulances to help you out at any given time. It's not going to tax our system so much here. We're able to get in and out of our hospitals quickly, but we want you to understand we're well prepared. So with that, I can answer any other additional questions that attend to us locally. Other than that, that's it. I mean, right now it appears to be a very hard flu. Just like we had the H1N1 and other stuff before that. So we made it through that. We'll make it through this. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Sure. So I just want to wrap up by stating that yes, we are in touch. So our police department also gets these updates as well. We have an inventory of supplies as well, and for this particular virus, it's pretty much a mask is what the protocol is to cover up. So it's not, you're not going to see people in the big suits like that this virus and that it's going to spread and they're going to be in all the rubber suits and all. You're not going to see that. But if you are sick, reminder, if you are sick, go to the Payless Immediate Care. You can go there. Go to your own doctor if you can get in. So those are places to go. That they're prepared for this and they know what to look for and they know the questions to ask. So I want to thank all of you for coming today. Hopefully this was informative. Again, you can always call us for information. You can go to our website and we keep that updated regularly. And I'm sure at our board meetings and all of that, I will continue to give updates as well. So.
At the library, after talking to the mayor, we have put your website on our Facebook, we put on our Twitter feed, and on our e-blasting. I don't know if maybe links onto the Faith Communities websites might be an idea to put them on, because it was a very informative PowerPoint and video that you had on there. So maybe they could just take that link and put it onto your...
You're welcome to use those links. My statement from Monday night's board meeting, which is very similar to what I just gave you. That's already up on the website. That video that we showed today, that's up on our website, and also you can link to that via Facebook as well. And then this will also be linked up there as well. So you can get all of those out there, because I know a lot of people use Facebook. They want to read, they want to see videos. All of that's there as well. So that's a good point. We just want people to be informed, because we don't. The biggest problem with this particular incident, or this particular virus, would be panic. That would be the biggest problem that we would have. And so that's what we're trying to avoid by making sure everyone has the facts. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for coming.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.